Hello. In the letter to Galatians, chapter 6, verse 7, St. Paul says, and I'll quote it in Greek, "Tu lipou kopous mi medis parcheto eroga to stigmata tu Jesu ento somati mu vastazo." I have the marks of Christ on my body, is what St. Paul is saying. Now, in the this has manifested in the Catholic Church quite literally. Ivan Illich says that some saints have identified with Christ so much that his wounds are incarnate, are imprinted on their body. Some people have dismissed this as neurotic necrosis. But the two particular people who manifested this strange phenomenon, one was St. Francis of Assisi in 1224, reported by his biographer Thomas of Celano in 1230. So very contemporaneously there was a report. It could be dismissed as leprosy, some side effects of malaria, ill health, whatever. Or Padre Pio, who was a modern stigmatist, who was photographed. He was examined in 1920 and 1925. He was much visited by some of the more recent popes. And there were stories that his wounds were self-inflicted and tended with carbolic acid. There's also Catherine of Siena. In fact, there are more female stigmatics than there are male stigmatics. But what seems to me very interesting is that the manifestation of the stigmata event, occurs at about the same time that you get the first documentation about the Turin shroud. The Turin shroud has been examined many times, and I think today there's a general consensus that it's probably some sort of fake. It certainly doesn't go back to the 1st century. It's first documented in 1354, but there's also other imprints of the of Christ. The Sudarium of Oviedo and the image of Edessa, or the Mandylion. These go back to an event which is recorded in the New Testament and is also the 6th station of the Catholic Stations of the Cross, when Veronica wipes the brow of Jesus on the way to Calvary. Veronica, vera icon, true image. It strongly suggests that Veronica herself is not a real person, but a statement, a concept, the true icon. But it seems to me that if you take all these things together, we're looking at a phenomenon which is linked to an obsession, a sort of mystical obsession with the Passion of Christ. And this is then manifest not only in people's bodies, but also on strips of fabric. If the stigmata can appear on somebody's body, then it can presumably equally appear on a strip of medieval fabric. I see no reason why that isn't possible. So if the strip of medieval fabric is medieval and not 1st century Palestine, that seems to me perfectly reasonable. It still is an unexplained phenomenon. I must say, I found the whole idea of the Turin shroud and the stigmata quite fascinating, really, since I was a small boy at school. Whether it's true or not, the idea that one's religious belief can somehow be manifest in one's body or on the objects around one, I think is quite a phenomenal one. And although the stigmata is very much a phenomenon of the Western Church, you don't find stigmatists in the Eastern Church, though there are claims that St. Gregory Palamas was a stigmatist. I think those are rather spurious claims. And of course, St. Francis of Assisi would be recognised as a saint in the Orthodox Church because he's before 1054 in the schism. Again, we'll talk about that later. But I do find it fascinating that these things can manifest, and that if somebody is a truly holy person for whatever religion that might be, if somebody is a truly good person, that goodness exudes, and so it doesn't matter the source of that goodness from my point of view. What matters is that it has an effect outside. What matters is that there are marks of that goodness. Whether these be marks in somebody's hands and feet, whether these be marks on a tablecloth, whether these be marks of charity and kindness and goodwill, I don't think that really matters. What matters is the goodness projects outwards. The goodness inspires, literally. You breathe out and other people breathe in. There we are. If you're in the Western Church, you're celebrating Easter this weekend, happy Easter.